Y News. The Department of Agriculture eyes releasing a suggested retail price on agricultural products amid increasing prices in the market. The Trade Union Congress of the Philippines is seeking a 320 peso across-the-board minimum wage increase for private workers. And a structural engineering expert calls for stricter measures to ensure that all steel products in the country are safe to use. Y News begins now.
From the UNTV News and Rescue Command Center in Quezon City, this is Y News.
Good evening. Prices of liquefied petroleum gas or LPG will go up by 3 to 4 pesos starting tomorrow. This means the price of an 11-kilogram LPG tank will go up by 33 to 44 pesos. The price hike is due to the movement of fuel prices in the world market. The Department of Agriculture must widening the suggested retail price coverage to include agricultural products amid increasing prices in the market. Ray Pelayo tells us why.
Agriculture Secretary Manny Piñol suspects some traders of using the tax reform acceleration and inclusion or train law to further their own interests. Piñol reveals that based on his meeting with stakeholders this morning, he found that some business owners are behind the inflating prices as producers report low farm gate prices and sufficient supply of rice, fish and vegetable produces in the market. Piñol notes that based on their computation, the effect of train law to commodities is only less than 1%.
The movement of the prices right now in the market is more likely caused by speculation than anything else.
The DA now forms a technical working group to formulate suggested retail prices or SRP of basic commodities like rice, fish and vegetables. Piñol adds the government could intervene if SRP will be implemented and fine those proven to have committed profiteering from 1,000 to 1 million pesos.
The intention of the president is to first protect our consumers. Number two, of course, protect the producers as well.
Ray Pelayo, UNTV, News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The Philippine government is now pursuing the importation of 200 metric tons of cheaper oil from Russia. However, the Department of Energy says this will not immediately bring relief from soaring oil prices. Rosalie Costa tells us why.
The Philippines is now looking at Russia as an alternative fuel supplier outside of oil-producing countries. This is amid the skyrocketing prices of oil in the world market, which heavily affects different sectors. The Philippine National Oil Company Exploration Corporation, or PNOCEC, proposes to import 200 metric tons or 240 million liters of diesel from Russia. This is through a government-to-government transaction. This volume is good for 3 days to ensure energy security in the country. However, energy spokesperson says this will not bring immediate relief amid surging oil prices.
Masyado siyang maliit. Ang sinasabi natin kasi, stockpiling kasi siya. Ito yung suporta pa doon sa minimum inventory requirements. So it's more on energy security.
DOE thinks that through this, private oil retailers will consider importing diesel from Russia. This will enhance competition among oil producers and will eventually result to lower local diesel and fuel price.
Ina-explore natin yung proseso kung paano ito gagawin para in the end baka makatulong din sa prices. Although sa ngayon talagang sobrang liit niya.
The DOCC's fund will be used in procuring the diesel from Russia, and the government is eyeing to place the diesel in 2 storage facilities in Subic, Zambales. DOE hopes to import the Russian diesel in less than 6 months. The PNOCEC is also considering negotiating with other countries which are not members of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, such as Thailand. Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacañang.
The Trade Union Congress of the Philippines, or TUCP, is seeking a 320 peso across-the-board minimum wage increase for private workers. Here's why from Grace Kasi.
According to the studies of Ibon Foundation, the cost of living of every family with 6 members in Metro Manila is 1,160 pesos. This is far from the current 512 pesos being earned by minimum wage earners in Metro Manila, like Melvin Dala. He says he cannot even save money for emergency cases because his daily income is not enough to meet the daily needs of his family.
Kasi nag-uupahan ako ng bahay, kulang at kulang pa rin.
This is one of the reasons why the Trade Union Congress of the Philippines, or TUCP, filed a bill in the lower house seeking to increase the minimum wage of all private workers by 320 pesos due to the rising prices of basic commodities. If this will be approved, it will mandate 832 pesos minimum wage in Metro Manila, 610 to 720 pesos in Luzon, 605 to 686 in Visayas, and 585 to 660 in Mindanao.
Lahat naman ay naiapektado sa train, sa peso depreciation, sa oil prices increases, lahat namang apektado.
The Malacañang, however, leaves the decision to the Congress.
Well, tama po ang ginawa ng TUCP. Naghain sila ng panukalang batas dahil yung batas na umiiral po ngayon ay regional wage increases po. Pero kung maipapasa po yan, gagalangin naman yan ng palasyo.
Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The Philippine government files diplomatic protests against China over its continued militarization in the West Philippine Sea. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque says the protest covers the alleged installation of anti-ship cruise missiles and air-to-air missile system in the Spratly Islands, as well as the latest report of alleged harassment of Philippine soldiers by Chinese forces in Ayungin Shoal on May 11. He adds President Duterte will never give away even an inch of our territory and has acted on incidents over the West Philippine Sea by taking diplomatic actions with China without a fanfare. A structural engineer calls on the government to implement stricter measures ensuring that all steel products in the country are safe to use. Monokson tells us why. We'll get back to that report of Monokson later.
The number of dying inmates inside detention facilities of Calabarzon rose to 16 because of jail congestion. Authorities say the common causes of sudden death of inmates are difficulty in breathing and cardiac respiratory arrest.
Ito yung mga bagay na hindi lang problema ng Calabarzon, kundi problema ng lahat ng kapulisan natin nationwide. But para nga masolusyonan ito, ang sa atin lang is panatilihing malinis ang mga jail facilities natin.
Suspected members of the New People's Army or NPA attacked the Adams Haven Mountain Resort in Barangay Umpao, Tarragona, Davao Oriental yesterday. Authorities' initial investigation reveals more than 20 armed men broke in the resort and introduced themselves as NPA members. The group burned multi-cob, generator, electric cutter, and destroyed other equipment before leaving. Authorities are still conducting pursuit operation to capture those responsible for the incident. Daan Bantayan Mayor Vicente Luot is now recovering after he accidentally shot himself in the leg inside his vehicle on Wednesday. Luot was on his way home after attending a wake in Barangay Lanao, Daan Bantayan in Cebu when the accident happened. Citing the Cebu Provincial Police Director, Philippine National Police Chief Oscar Albayalde said the gun was registered under Luot's former aide. Luot is now being treated in a hospital. Earlier this month, Luot survived an ambush when armed men fired at his vehicle. Luot, a former police officer, is among the politicians named by President Rodrigo Duterte as allegedly involved in illegal drug trade. The remains of Justin Valdez, the Filipino student abducted and killed in Wicklow, Ireland, arrived Wednesday night at Clark International Airport. Her remains were brought right away to her hometown in Aritao, Nueva Vizcaya. The honorary consul of the Philippines for Ireland, Mark Congdon, assured that investigation is underway to find out the connection of the killer to Valdez and the motive of the crime.
The culprit has been found, and unfortunately he was found by the police and shot dead at the time, and the investigation is ongoing.
Consul Congdon said the murder of Valdez was the first incident of such gravity against a Filipino in Ireland.
Next on Y News. The Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources begins drafting its fisheries management plan for the Philippine rice. Former Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno vows to respect the Supreme Court's ruling after filing a motion seeking to review the decision on her ouster case. And the World Health Organization marks the World No Tobacco Day by targeting habits that break hearts. Y News will be right back. Meanwhile, stay tuned for Angelo III. I'm Darlene Basingan. Good evening.
On Y News tonight, the Senate insists its version of the Bangsamoro Basic Law is constitutional amid concerns over the recently passed BBL House version. Former Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno vows to respect the Supreme Court's ruling after filing a motion seeking to review the decision on her ouster case. The Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources begins drafting its fisheries management plan for the Philippine rice. Good evening. The Senate insists that its own version of the proposed Bangsamoro Basic Law, or BBL, is constitutional. However, a lawmaker has expressed concerns over the recently passed bill. Here's why from Grace Casin.
The Senate finally approves its own version of the proposed Bangsamoro Basic Law, or BBL, on the third and final reading today. The upper chamber of Congress is confident that its BBL version is constitutional as it underwent thorough scrutiny. Among the provisions that the senators removed is the so-called opt-in provision.
Sa gabay din ng mga batikang abogado na kabilang sa mga kasama dito sa Senado, konstitusyonal ang inaprubahan namin on third and final reading na BBL.
Once we approved it on the BBL last night on third reading, we were all convinced about its constitutionality.
However, Akbayan Party List Representative Dom Villarin expresses concern that the passage of the BBL is just a front to push for the shift to a federal form of government. This after House Speaker Pantalon Alvarez admitted to having possible constitutional issues of the BBL. Villarin explains the public is not even in favor of shifting to a federal form of government based on the results of the previous surveys. This is why some lawmakers are still against federalism.
Ang nangyari sa BBL, because takot sila na by SONA walang mai-report ang presidente, so kailangan nila na merong isang major policy that would be reported. But ang tanong nga after SONA, ituloy-tuloy ba nila ito? No? Or balik doon sa original platform nila of federalism?
Malacañang is hoping that the proposed BBL versions will undergo thorough reconciliation in bicameral conference committee to avoid any legality issues.
I know that there are respective versions that each sector is pushing, but we need a version that's acceptable to all and that will withstand the test of judicial scrutiny. Otherwise, baka wala talaga tayong BBL.
Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The camp of former Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno vows to respect whatever the Supreme Court's ruling after filing a motion seeking to review the decision on her ouster case. Mai Bermudez tells us why.
Underscoring respect for the Supreme Court's ruling, the camp of former Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno vows to follow the outcome of the High Tribunal's decision in their appeal for review of the CJ's ouster via quo warranto petition.
Malinaw po na ginagalang natin ang Korte Suprema sa kapangyarihan nito upang magbigay ng mga pinal na desisyon sa bagay na ito.
Yesterday, Sereno submitted a motion for reconsideration seeking to reverse the court's ruling and emphasized that non-submission of Statement of Assets, Liabilities, and Net Worth or SALN is not a reasonable basis of removal for an impeachable officer. As of now, the camp is still in search of Sereno's missing SALNs, particularly for the years 1992, 2000, 2003, and 2006, but argued no judge has ever been ousted due to non-submission of the said requirement.
Nawala naman pong tinanggal dahil sa non-submission of SALN. Binigyan lang o pinatawan lang po ng karampatang fine or penalty. Pero removal po, as far as I know, hindi po naisama yung na bilang parusa.
Their motion questions the use of quo warranto as a mode of ouster, arguing that impeachment is the exclusive way of removing impeachable officers. The International Commission of Jurists meantime considers Sereno's ouster as a deterioration of rule of law. But Malacañang, for its part, expresses confidence on the process and even gave this message for Sereno.
Well, may proseso po yan, sundan ang proseso, and we wish her the best.
Mai Bermudez, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
President Rodrigo Duterte will not fire Solicitor General Jose Calida amid allegations on conflict of interest. However, Malacañang will support the investigation of the Department of Justice into the contract of several government agencies with Calida's security agency. Presidential spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque says the Duterte administration will respect any probe that would be conducted on the issue, including that of Congress. Roque explains that the said investigation would shed light on the controversy.
I understand that the Secretary of Justice has relented and has agreed to open formal investigation, which I think is a better course of action para malinaw na once and for all kung talagang nagkaroon ng conflict of interest.
The Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources is drafting a management plan for the Philippine rise, while the Armed Forces of the Philippines believes hoisting a flag in the said area shows readiness in defending the domain as the country commemorates National Flag Days. Here's why from Nel Maribojo.
The Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources is now formulating a fisheries management plan for the Philippine rise after President Rodrigo Duterte declared portions of it as marine protected area. Out of the 13.4 million hectare validated by the United Nations Commission on the Limits of the Continental Shelf as part of the Philippine territory in 2012, Duterte proclaimed 50,000 hectares as strict scientific research area, 17,000 hectares as no-take zone, and 300 for fisheries management area. BIFAR says the program might include facilities that would monitor the fish harvest to be brought to the nearest province like Casiguran, Aurora, or Infanta, Quezon.
And then if we were able to size that up, pwede mag-put up doon ng fish port. Yung Benambak is teeming with fish habitats. Pag meron nun, maraming pagkain na mapaprodusyon, primarily fish.
Last May 16, a group of researchers were deployed in the area to map, survey, and conduct biological investigations and assessment on the coral reef and fisheries stock until November. They were accompanied by the Armed Forces of the Philippines who planted another Philippine marker in the shallowest portion of Benhambanca, along with the divers from Coast Guard, BIFAR, the UNTV team, and other agencies. The AFE says the historic move shows their readiness to defend the territory.
So ang pagsasama-sama natin sa pagdive hanggang sa ocean floor ay pagpapakita ng ating pagtutulong-tulong bilang isang bayan, bilang isang Pilipino na naghahangad na ipakita sa buong mundo, lalong-lalo na sa ipinakita ninyong coverage, na ang bahagi niya ng karagatan, we lay claim, ipinangkaloob sa atin yan, at hindi yun natatapos doon.
The Philippine Rise flag hoisting ushers the country's commemoration of the National Days flags from May 28, culminating in the celebration of the Independence Day on June 12. During this period, Filipinos are encouraged to display the national emblem in their homes, major thoroughfares, public and private offices and institutions. Nel Maribojo, UNTV News and Rescue, Pasay City.
Boracay stakeholders are divided over plans of President Rodrigo Duterte to place the island under land reform program. Here's why from Vincent Arboleda.
President Rodrigo Duterte's proposal to place the entire Boracay Island under land reform is met with mixed reactions. For boatman Joard Ascania, it may cause more uncertainty.
Hindi ako magpasugot.
Naman sir?
Dahil titulo at ng tao, itahatag lang sa wala at titulo sa ibang na tao. Mas lalo nga magulo ang Boracay kung makaroon na ubrahon.
Fish vendor Sailor Isada is in favor of the plan, but he's worried that the land might be given to people who are non-natives.
Dapat yung mga taga Boracay na lang bibigyan ng mga lupa na yan, reform na yan. Baka kung saan-saan pa naman ibibigay yan. Ganyan.
Maria Tambuon, a member of the island's indigenous community, hopes the government will give them their rightful land.
Pabor sa amin yun, di ba? Kasi ay presidente na yung magbigay eh. Ay ang problema, paano kaya sa susunod na mga gano'n na mga henerasyon? Ano naman ang mangyari? Di ba? Halimbawa, kung ang magpresidente na naman ay iba naman yung yung pamaraan niya.
While the Boracay Foundation Incorporated, the group of establishment owners in the island is yet to comment as they still seek to clarify the said proposal. Vincent Arboleda, UNTV News and Rescue, Boracay.
The Environment and Management Bureau recommends to 12 hospitals in Iloilo to build their own sewerage treatment facility. Here's why from Bernard Dadis.
12 hospitals in Iloilo were found to have no sewerage treatment plants and just use conventional septic tanks. This is why the septic tanks easily get full and need to be dislodged. The Environment and Management Bureau Region 6 says using conventional septic tanks in huge buildings, especially hospitals, is inefficient. Hospitals also release different kind of wastewater which need treatment. With this, the EMB6 recommends to the hospital to build their own STP.
So doon nakita na ito na doon hindi kita ng ito. Ang ilang treatment facility sa subong, that's why na-comment kita na dapat iparehab nila ang ilang mga wastewater treatment facility sa tanan nilang hospital.
The EMB does not require a specific design as long as it's efficient and can accommodate a huge number of users. Hospitals can also install their septic tanks in the STP or close it down to create a new line. The provincial government and Department of Health will allocate 63 million pesos for the upgrade of the wastewater facilities of hospitals. The province targets to start the program next month.
Mga traditional anay nga mga pag-dispose ng aton nga mga waste materials, no? Ang aton nga mga septic tanks. But tungod ini hospital, sa may hospital waste kita, lain niyang requirements ini. That's why we really have to comply with that.
DOH requires hospital to have their own sewerage treatment before giving them license to operate. Bernard Dadis, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
A structural engineer calls on the government to implement stricter measures ensuring that all steel products in the country are safe to use. Mornokson explains why.
Substandard steel bars were allegedly used in high-rise buildings constructed in the country in the past 12 years. According to Engineer Emil Morales of the Association of Structural Engineers of the Philippines, most buildings erected during these years are using quench-tempered or thermomechanically treated rebars which are not fit for high-rise buildings. Structures in Bonifacio Global City in Taguig and other condominium towers in Metro Manila were cited as example. He explains QT rebars are inferior to microalloyed rebars as it is only tough on the outer layer and is not safe to use in earthquake-prone areas like in the Philippines.
Pag niroll nila yan, red hot siya. Pag binugahan siya ng cold water, titigas yung outer skin. Mga 1 to 2 millimeter lang yung layer na yon, pero mas malakas kaysa dun sa nasa loob.
Morales notes, QT rebars can still be used but only on medium-rise buildings.
We are not really advocating for its total ban kasi pwedeng gamitin yan sa mga pavements, sa mga foundations, or sa mga medium-rise buildings, but definitely not in high-rise buildings.
But according to Dod Scola, the Vice President of Steel Asia, QT rebars has been used in the construction industry for decades. but builders may also opt for microalloyed rebars that cost $20 per ton. The Department of Trade and Industry, meanwhile, will look into the issue while the Interior and local government determines which high-rise buildings were erected with substandard materials. Morales believes stringent measures should be put in place to ensure that all steel products are safe to use. While a former senator is urging the government to check the steel bars used in its mega infrastructure project called Build, Build, Build program.
You're putting an entire country at risk. And you can imagine the economic backlash of this. My God, it's gonna bring us back to the dark ages.
Mon Hokson, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Authorities are having difficulty in encouraging students in Marawi City to go back to school, while proper hygiene has been the focus of a public school in Parañaque City during its Brigada Eskwela activity today. Deb Riveral tells us why.
There are only a few days left before the school year 2018 to 2019 opens, but the Amay Pakpak Central Elementary School in Marawi City is having difficulty encouraging students to go back to school. Most of the children here have been traumatized because of the war that happened between the Maute ISIS group and government troops. Psychological interventions are still being conducted to remove their fears and trauma caused by the conflict.
So far, ang assessment namin through text messaging dun sa pag-track namin sa mga pupils, mahihirapan kami pero may convincing power na babalik ang aming mga anak.
More than 2,000 students have enrolled in the Amay Pakpak Central Elementary School, but school authorities say the said number is lower than that of last year. The local government of Davao, meanwhile, will tighten the security at public schools by deploying more Civil Security Unit, or CSU, or Public School Security Guards. This is to maintain security in schools and prevent gang wars and rumble within the vicinity. In Parañaque City, students help their parents clean the classrooms of Huerta Elementary School. Before the Brigada Eskwela activity began, parents and students danced Zumba to energize themselves. After the bayanihan, the children took shower and were fed with apples.
Para pantulong sa mga bata, para at least yung kanilang sa health ng mga bata, maano yung pagliligo araw-araw, yung para sa kalinisan ng katawan.
In Pampanga, aside from cleaning and painting, the Members Church of God International, or MCGI, also distributed teachers' kit to 4 schools in the province.
Actually, we are really thankful na nandito kayo, nandito ang PDD. Actually, this is not the first time. Even one of the building of the school is from sa kapatiran o sa ng ang dating daan.
Debra Veral, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Teachers and school head of Claro M. Recto High School and other schools in Metro Manila expressed their gratitude to Members Church of God International. Here's why from Leslie Longbowen.
Students, teachers of Claro M. Recto High School as well as residents of Barangay 412 Manila benefited from the visit of Members Church of God International. After the Brigada Eskwela, MCGI conducted a medical mission in the school where 345 people were served by the free optical, dental, medical adult, and pediatric services.
Sa panahon ngayon, kahit ako teacher, minsan hindi ko rin ma-afford na magpa-check up ng medical, dental. So napakalaking bagay talaga.
Malaki talaga ang tulong na nagawa ng participation ninyo sa amin sa school ngayon. Hindi lang sa aming paaralan, kung hindi yung aming nearby barangay benefited also from your presence.
Meanwhile, MCGI's Brigada Eskwela are continuously held in different schools of Metro Manila. These include Concepcion Elementary School in Malabon City, Rizal Elementary School in Pasay City, Deparo High School in Caloocan, and Poblacion National High School in Muntinlupa City. MCGI volunteers cleaned every corner of the classrooms, painted walls, and cleaned even the school surroundings.
Kami ay nagpapasalamat ng buong puso sa ang dating daan volunteers ng Deparo chapter for considering our school as your place for your volunteerism. Malaking bagay po ang inyong ibinigay sa pagbigay ng inyong buong araw na pagtulong sa ating Brigada Eskwela 2018.
Leslie Lomboan, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The World Health Organization marks the World No Tobacco Day by targeting habits that breaks hearts. Aiko Miguel tells us why.
Studies of the World Health Organization show that tobacco use and exposure to secondhand smoke are major causes of cardiovascular disease, contributing to 3 million deaths a year. According to Dr. Gundo Weiler of WHO, a smoker faces 30% risk of getting a heart disease, and those inhaling its smoke faces higher risk. This is due to the chemicals found in cigarettes like nicotine and other cancer-causing substances.
Every hour in the Philippines, 4 people will die of a heart disease that is caused by tobacco. It has effects on those who are around smokers, so the families, the children, people who are exposed to secondhand smoke.
The Department of Health meanwhile reports that 17 Filipinos die every hour due to smoking, which prompted calls on tighter smoking regulations.
Ischemic heart diseases or the hardening of arteries continue to be the leading cause of death in the Philippines, with more than 74,000 cases recorded in 2016. 5 other non-communicable diseases linked to smoking as top causes of deaths and diseases among Filipinos.
Kaya nga medyo talagang alarming, and that is why we need to push more.
Yes,
push
that's right.
more.
Exactly.
Kaya importante ho sa amin yung tobacco tax.
The Metro Manila Development Authority, for its part, vows to strictly implement the Executive Order No. 26 or the nationwide smoking ban.
MMDA, however, we are only able to catch violators but without fines. What we tell them to do is to do community service. Otherwise, the local government law ordinance will be the one to be implemented on fines and violations.
Authorities also urge the smokers anew to choose health and quit smoking to prevent their hearts from breaking. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Up next on Y News. Dissident Russian journalist turns up alive after reported murder. A U.S. televangelist asks followers to buy him a $54 million private jet. And American Idol runner-up Filipino-American singer Jessica Sanchez wows wishers with her Wishclusive performances. Stay tuned for William Thio. I'm Angelo Castro III. Good evening.
Good evening. Here are the top stories on Y News Tonight. The Department of Agriculture mulls widening the suggested retail price coverage to include agricultural products amid increasing prices in the market. Agriculture Secretary Manny Piñol says this is to counter traders who are using the Tax Reform Acceleration and Inclusion or TRAIN law to increase merchandise prices. Piñol reveals that based on his meeting with stakeholders this morning, there is no basis to inflating agri prices as farm gate prices remain low and supply of rice, fish, and vegetable produces are sufficient. He adds that the government could intervene if SRP will be implemented and fine those proven to have committed profiteering from 1,000 to 1 million pesos.
The movement of the prices right now in the market is more likely caused by speculation than anything else. The intention of the president is to first protect our consumers. Number two, of course, protect the producers as well.
Meanwhile, the Trade Union Congress of the Philippines, or TUCP, is seeking a 320 peso across-the-board minimum wage increase for private workers. TUCP says this is to help minimum wage earners cope with high cost of living and surging commodity prices. If this will be approved, it will mandate 832 pesos minimum wage in Metro Manila and over 600 pesos in the rest of Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. The Malacañang, however, leaves the decision to the Congress.
Man ay naiapektado sa train, sa peso depreciation, sa oil prices increases, lahat ng mga apektado.
Well, tama po ang ginawa ng TUCP. Naghain sila ng panukalang batas dahil yung batas na umiiral po ngayon ay regional wage increases po. No? Pero kung maipapasa po yan, gagalangin naman yan ng palasyo.
In other news, a structural engineer claims that substandard steel bars were used in high-rise buildings constructed in the country in the past 12 years. Engineer Emil Morales of the Association of Structural Engineers of the Philippines says most buildings, especially in Bonifacio Global City in Taguig and other condominium towers in Metro Manila, are built with quench-tempered or thermomechanically treated steel bars. He explains that QT bars are inferior to micro-alloyed rebars as it is only tough on the outer layer and is not safe to use in earthquake-prone areas like the Philippines.
Pag niroll nila yan, red hot siya. Pag binugahan siya ng cold water, titigas yung outer skin. Mga 1 to 2 millimeter lang yung layer na yon, pero mas malakas kaysa dun sa nasa loob. We are not really advocating for its total ban kasi pwedeng gamitin yan sa mga pavements, sa mga foundations, or sa mga medium-rise buildings, but definitely not in high-rise buildings.
But according to Dodds Cola, the Vice President of Steel Asia, QT rebars has been used in the construction industry for decades, but builders may also opt for micro-alloyed rebars. The Department of Trade and Industry, meanwhile, will look into the issue while the Interior and local government determines which high-rise buildings were erected with substandard materials. The Senate finally approves its own version of the proposed Bangsamoro Basic Law, or BBL, on the third and final reading today. The upper chamber of Congress is confident that the BBL version is constitutional as it underwent a thorough scrutiny. However, Akbayan Party List Representative Villarin expresses concern that the passage of the BBL is just a front to push for the shift to a federal form of government. Villarin explains the public is not even in favor of shifting to a federal form of government based on the results of previous surveys. Malacañang, meanwhile, is hoping that the proposed BBL versions will undergo thorough reconciliation, the bicameral conference committee, to avoid any legality issues.
I know that there are respective versions that each sector is pushing, but we need a version that's acceptable to all and that will withstand the test of judicial scrutiny. Otherwise, baka wala talaga tayong BBL.
The Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, or BFAR, is now formulating a fisheries management plan for the Philippine rice after President Rodrigo Duterte declared portions of it as marine protected area. BFAR says the program might include facilities that would monitor the fish harvest to be brought to the nearest province like Casiguran, Aurora, or Infanta, Quezon. Last May 16, a group of researchers were deployed in the area to map, survey, and conduct biological investigations and assessment on the coral reef and fisheries stock until November. They were accompanied by the Armed Forces of the Philippines, who planted another Philippine marker in the shallowest portion of the Benham Bank, along with divers from Coast Guard, BFAR, the UNTV team, and other agencies.
And then if we were able to size that up, pwede mag-put up doon ng fish port. Yung Benham Bank is teeming with fish habitats.
And for the news abroad, here's Amiel Pascual live from Zhubei, Taiwan. Good evening, Amiel.
Thank you, William. High-ranking officials of the United States and North Korea met in New York late on Wednesday in the first of 2 days of talks about the future of Pyongyang's nuclear weapons program and a possible summit between U.S. President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. The Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Kim Yong-chol, a close aide of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, met for about 90 minutes over dinner and exited without providing any detailed remarks to reporters waiting outside. Pompeo would only say that the dinner was great and that the two men dined on American beef. It was not yet known whether the two men made any progress toward narrowing long-standing differences between Washington and Pyongyang that could end decades of hostile relations. Journalists and activists in Ukraine breathed a sign of relief after a dramatic televised press briefing on Wednesday. Giselle Bonifacio tells us why.
Journalists and activists celebrated at the Kiev city square on Wednesday after news emerged that the dissident Russian journalist who was reported murdered in Kiev was actually alive.
You know, I am simply shocked. I am in a good shock. I survived such a stress twice within the past 24 hours, and Babchenko will have to give me money for pills.
Ukrainian authorities had said on Tuesday that Arkady Babchenko had been shot dead at his flat and that his wife had found him in a pool of blood. Babchenko is a 41-year-old critic of President Vladimir Putin and of Russia's policy in Ukraine and Syria. But the dissident Russian dramatically reappeared alive on Wednesday in the middle of a televised briefing about his own killing by the Ukrainian State Security Service. An emotional Babchenko said he had been part of a special Ukrainian operation to thwart a Russian attempt on his life and that he was fine. He went on to thank the Ukrainian Security Service, or SBU, for saving his life.
I am grateful that my life was saved. But what is the most important is that other bigger terrorist acts, more serious terrorist acts were prevented. People have been preparing seriously.
He did not specify what those planned acts were, but the SBU said it had received information about a plot to kill 30 people in Ukraine, including Babchenko, but had managed to prevent it. It said it had detained a Ukrainian citizen recruited by Russia to find someone to kill Babchenko. He was given $40,000 to organize the murder, $30,000 for the killer, and $10,000 for being an intermediary. Ukraine said it was necessary to fake the journalist's death so that the organizers of the plot to kill him would believe they had succeeded.
Для чого це робиться? Для того, щоб дестабілізувати ситуацію.
For what reason is this being done? In order to destabilize the situation in Ukraine, in order to demonstrate inefficiency of authorities, and certainly in order to murder those whom Russia is most afraid of. And I congratulate you sincerely one more time that this operation went successfully, and we did not allow them to fulfill this scenario.
Пройшла успішно, і ми не дали їм реалізувати цей сценарій.
The Russian Foreign Ministry said on Wednesday it was happy Babchenko had turned out to be alive after all, but said Ukraine has used his story as propaganda. Babchenko has lived in the Ukrainian capital since receiving threats at home for saying on Facebook that he did not mourn the victims of a Russian military plane crash which left more than 90 people dead. Giselle Bonifacio, UNTV News and Rescue, Europe.
An American preacher asked his followers to help fund his private jet worth $54 million. Televangelist Jess Duplantis claimed God told him to buy a fourth jet, a Falcon 7X. Duplantis appealed his cause controversy and drew flack on social media. On Twitter, users quoted Bible verses warning against greed and false prophets. Others suggested it could be better to use the money for the poor. In video address, a 68-year-old Duplantis explains he needs the jet to further spread what he says are teachings of the gospel. Meanwhile, Brazilian oil workers have held a 72-hour strike on Wednesday, while a United Nations official says Mexican federal security forces might be behind the wave of disappearances in and around a Mexican city. Darlene Basingan tells us why.
Brazilian oil workers began a 72-hour strike on Wednesday in a new blow to President Michel Temer following a nationwide trucker protest that has strangled Latin America's largest economy for over a week. The strike has affected several rigs, refineries, plants, and ports. It's the latest challenge for state-led oil firm Petróleo Brasileiro S.A., whose shares have tumbled nearly 30% in 2 weeks over fears that political interference would unwind more investor-focused policies. On Tuesday, Temur was reportedly considering an overhaul of a market-based fuel pricing policy at Petrobras, which could provoke even more investor flight. The oil strike was declared illegal by Brazil's top labor court on Tuesday after Petrobras argued it was about politics rather than labor issues. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned on Wednesday of a stronger military response to any resumption of Palestinian attacks after Hamas said it would cease fire if Israel did the same. The Israel-Gaza border fell quiet under the de facto ceasefire after the most intense flare-up of hostilities between Palestinian militants and Israel since a 2014 war. Militants from Hamas, the dominant group in Gaza, and Islamic Jihad fired dozens of rockets and mortar bombs at southern Israel throughout Tuesday and overnight. There were no reports of further attacks after Hamas announced the ceasefire on Wednesday. Israel signaled it would halt its strikes if the rocket barrages stop. The UN Human Rights Office has strong indications that Mexican federal security forces are behind a wave of disappearances in and around the city of Nuevo Laredo. UN spokeswoman Elizabeth Trossel said the international body has documented the disappearance of 21 men and 2 women in Nuevo Laredo from February until May 16 this year, and that 5 out of the said crimes involve minors. A local human rights organization put the number of disappearances at more than 40, and the UN Human Rights Office had received testimonies that they were allegedly perpetrated by a federal security force, often late at night or at dawn. The agency has called on Mexican authorities to end the disappearances, to conduct an effective search, and to bring the perpetrators to justice.
Those are the news making headlines in other parts of the world. Back to you, Will.
Thank you, Amiel Pascual, live from Zhubei, Taiwan. Filipino-American singer and American Idol runner-up Jessica Sanchez wows wishers with her exclusive performances. Leslie Longboen tells us why.
American Idol runner-up Jessica Sanchez showed off her world-class talent anew in her Wishclusive performances last night at the Eastwood Central Plaza. The Wishers also witnessed Jessica while she sings live her latest single, Caught Up.
I'm caught up in my feelings. You the type to make me feel like that.
Meanwhile, Wish 1075 also granted the wish of some fans of a meet and greet with a Filipino-American singer.
I love you guys so much. I say this all the time. You guys are amazing. I wouldn't be here without you guys. I love you. You guys are amazing. Thank you for all your love and support.
Jessica said she enjoyed her experience on the Wish bus, which she had been excited about.
When I saw it on YouTube was because I was like, dang, that's so different. Like, it's like a radio show and like a little studio on a bus, and that's like super, super cool. So I'm super happy to be a part of it.
Leslie Longboen, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Those are the reasons behind the news, May 31, 2018. I am William Thio, and because we need to know, we will always ask why. Thank you for watching Why News.